Dani was always meant to become the May Queen, midsummer. She doesn't stumble into that flower crown, she's led to it. From the moment she arrives, broken by her family's death and emotionally abandoned by Christian, the Horga treat her like something sacred. Pele comforts her differently than anyone else, asking if she feels held, as if he already knows the answer. The other outsiders are treated politely but distantly while Dani is absorbed into the rituals. Her grief makes her malleable, and the commune molds her. The maypole dance is drug-fueled, disorienting, and rigged in tone if not rules. Dani floats through it, cheered like royalty. The paintings, the flower motifs, even her emotional detachment all point forward. And when it's time to choose who dies, she doesn't hesitate. Christian becomes the sacrifice. That's not coincidence. The Horga prepared her, and her path was ritual. The black opal has magical powers, uncut gems. From the second Howard gets his hands on that black opal, the energy shifts. He calls it cosmic, says you can see the whole universe inside it, and honestly, the film backs him up. Kevin Garnett stares into it like it's a crystal ball, then plays like he's possessed. He's convinced it gives him power, even says it's just him and the rock. The movie opens in an Ethiopian mine with chaos and blood, and ends with Howard dying, the camera diving into his wound like it's entering the opal's core. It almost feels supernatural rather than a stylistic choice. The stone's origins, Howard's obsession, and the way it drives every major event scream mythic power. The opal warps behavior, inflates belief, and drives men to madness. It's a cursed idol wrapped in sparkle. By the way, if you guys like movie content like this, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks. Anyways, Caleb is an android, ex machina. Caleb arrives at Nathan's facility thinking he's the observer, but his entire role starts to feel suspect. He's dropped into a high-tech labyrinth, monitored constantly, and introduced like a blank slate. No backstory, no context, just data in motion. The scene where he slices open his own arm with a razor is revealing. He's not checking for injury, he's verifying his own reality, like he doesn't trust what he is. His behavior slips into mechanical territory too. Calculated, emotionless. Even his movements feel programmed. Nathan watches him and Ava like they're both part of a simulation, which flips the script. Maybe Ava's not the only one being tested. The real Turing test could be Caleb himself. The director even said he left clues to make the audience question Caleb's nature. The way things unfold, it feels less like a test of Ava and more like an experiment inside Caleb. The family's hallucinations. The witch. The family's corn is clearly rotting and that blight might be poisoning them. Early in the film, their crops fail and what's shown growing is suspiciously dark and diseased. The fungus ergot is known to infect rye and corn, and historically, it's caused convulsions, hallucinations, paranoia, all symptoms the family displays. The son's feverish visions, the twins' manic behavior, the talking goat, the mother's breakdown. None of it requires magic if their food is laced with ergot. Even the film's own mythology includes this fungus on the corn, grounding the theory in the text itself. They're isolated, desperate, malnourished, and maybe unknowingly dosed with something chemically close to LSD. Add religious fear and starvation to the mix, and you've got a recipe for shared madness. The horror might not come from witches in the woods, but from inside their pantry. The spider's meaning. Enemy. Spiders haunt the film from start to finish, never explained, never ignored. A woman crushes a tarantula in an underground club. A giant spider looms over the city skyline. And in the final scene, Adam's wife transforms into a massive spider, cowering as he opens the door. These aren't random surreal images, they're metaphors woven through the story. Director Denis Villeneuve said the film explores inner compulsions, and the spider becomes a symbol of that inner dictator. Critics point to the spider as a metaphor for Adam's fear of intimacy, especially with women. Helen, as a spider, reflects his anxiety over commitment, marriage as a web, a trap, a structure he wants, but also dreads. Other readings focus on repetition and entrapment, the web as a symbol of cycles he can't escape. Whether emotional, sexual, or psychological, the spider represents the thing Adam keeps running from, the part of himself that's caught. Ephraim and Thomas are the same person, the lighthouse. The credits list Robert Pattinson's character as Ephraim Winslow / Thomas Howard, which already screams identity confusion. He admits midway through that he stole the real Ephraim's name and that his actual name is Thomas, just like Willem Dafoe's character, Thomas Wake. That's not a coincidence. Both men share the same first name, and both have conflicting personalities. One wild and primal, the other desperate for control. Their constant fighting, eerie mirroring, and role swapping create a psychological tug of war that doesn't feel like two people. It feels like one mind unraveling. The film even pulls from real history involving two lighthouse keepers named Thomas, which reinforces the split self concept. Critics point out that Wake could be the id and Howard the ego, trapped in isolation, deteriorating under guilt and madness. As the storm rages and reality collapses, universes, it's never clear who's real and who's imagined. Maybe neither is. Tyrell is a closeted homosexual, Moonlight. Tyrell's fixation on Sharon is too intense to be brushed off as standard bullying. From the way he stares Sharon down in the classroom to the unnecessary comments about his genes, it's clear something else is brewing under the surface. He mocks Sharon's masculinity while practically eyeing him like a rival and an object of curiosity at the same time. That long, lingering gaze doesn't match the tone of a guy who just hates someone. Then he sets up the hazing scene with Kevin, forcing Sharon into humiliation, but it feels personal, like he's lashing out because of something he doesn't want to admit. His comments try so hard to distance himself from anything gay that they end up revealing more than they hide. Every move he makes, every insult, every stare, there's this chaotic blend of desire and shame pushing everything. It's uncomfortable, pointed, and deliberate. All inside Beau's mind, Beau is afraid. From the first frame, Beau's birth scene from inside the womb, the film invites you inside his head. Nothing afterward feels grounded. The apartment is a war zone of paranoia, the city shifts from panic to absurdity, and the story slides into full hallucination without warning. Beau finds a penis monster in the attic and attends his own surreal trial while glued to a boat. These aren't plot twists, they're psychic ruptures. Ari Aster said he wanted viewers to experience Beau, not observe him. That's why reality constantly collapses. One critic calls it a psychotic world, where inner and outer are indistinguishable. The whole film plays like a spiral of guilt, fear, and suppressed rage aimed at his mother. There's no stable ground because Beau has none. The final sequence is judgment inside his own fractured mind. He never leaves his head, neither do we. Ada is a hallucination, lamb. The story begins with Maria and Ingvar mourning their dead child, their home thick with silence and grief. Then Ada appears, a lamb with a human body, and instead of reacting with shock, they just accept her, dress her, and raise her like their daughter. That reaction alone feels unreal. It's as if Maria's mind has rewritten reality to fill the hole left by her loss. The film's world mirrors that mental haze, long, quiet scenes, no clear boundaries between dream and day, and imagery that feels more psychological than physical. The you that lingers outside, the half-seen sheep man, and Ada's calm acceptance into the family all play like fragments of a delusion. Critics note that the director centered the film on grief, not myth. Ada might not be supernatural at all. She could be the shape grief takes when the mind refuses to accept death. Fear and mistrust are the real monsters. It comes at night. There's no visible creature, no monstrous reveal, just dread. Paul's family isolates in the woods to avoid infection, but the real rot sets in after they let another family in. At first it's hopeful, then rules tighten, suspicions build, and fear poisons every interaction. Will is tied to a tree. The dog goes missing, every sound becomes a threat. When Paul finally kills Will's family, there's no clear villain, just panic disguised as protection. The title hints at something outside, but the danger creeps in from within. The characters crumble under isolation, pressure, and distrust, not claws or fangs. Critics point out that it isn't a physical monster, but actually fear itself, spreading faster than any virus. There's no evil presence lurking in the woods. The horror is watching trust evaporate, watching people choose survival over compassion, and realizing that's all it takes. The hand represents substance abuse. Talk to me. The embalmed hand hooks people, characters grab it, chant the words, and get hit with a euphoric rush, complete with dilated pupils and bizarre behavior. The filmmakers compared the possession to getting high, and honestly, it tracks. There's even a time limit, 90 seconds, or things start to spiral, which sounds a lot like dosage warnings. Mia ignores it, of course, and everything unravels. Her grip on reality slips, but she keeps coming back for more. She's chasing that first rush, even when the consequences get horrifying. She starts using after her mother's death, which feels like classic emotional self-medication. That initial thrill turns into full-blown chaos. Friends get hurt, trust evaporates, but the connection the hand offers is too tempting. It gives her something. Then takes everything else. By the time the fallout hits, it's already too late. That hand doesn't let go. Adam and Anthony are the same person. Enemy. Jake Gyllenhaal plays both roles, Adam the quiet professor, Anthony the bold actor. But the film never proves they're two separate people. They share a scar, a voice, handwriting, and even their women confuse them. Helen talks to Adam on the phone and thinks it's Anthony. That's not a mix-up, that's a clue. The film surrounds them with spider imagery and surreal edits, reinforcing a dreamlike symbolic world. Director Denis Villeneuve called the film an exploration of internal compulsions, not a story about clones. Adam lectures on cycles and repetition, then lives it, confronting his desires through Anthony. It's ego versus ID, restraint versus impulse. The final act shows Adam slipping into Anthony's world, wearing his jacket, using his key, walking into that underground club like it's always been his. There's no clear line between them because they're not split in space, they're split in mind. The pink opaque is real. I saw the TV glow. From the moment Maddie insists the show isn't fiction, the film starts peeling back layers. She says she she lived it that it's another world, and Owen could go there too, if he buries himself alive. It sounds impossible until Owen literally cuts open his chest and sees the pink opaque playing inside him. That moment breaks reality's spine. The show bleeds into the real world, not as a metaphor, but as an overlapping dimension. The director described the film as reality shifting beneath your feet, and that's exactly what happens. The pink opaque is treated like a memory, a calling, a truth wrapped in broadcast static. Critics point out that the film never confirms the show is real, but it also never shuts the door. Within this story, the show hums underneath everything, waiting, not imagined, hidden, and maybe alive. The Lobster is a critique of modern dating. Singles are herded into a hotel, handed a deadline, and told to find a partner or be turned into an animal. That's not romance, it's pressure. The matching system is absurdly literal. You need a shared trait to qualify, like nosebleeds or limps, reducing compatibility to shallow checkboxes. Guess fake habits, injure themselves, lie, anything to survive the system. It mirrors dating apps perfectly. Swipe-based logic, surface-level connection, performative personas. The hotel doesn't encourage love, it enforces conformity. Loneliness is punished, coupling is mandatory, and emotions get replaced by algorithms. Even the alternative, the Forest of Loners, has strict rules that outlaw connection entirely. You either pair off to avoid punishment or isolate to prove defiance. Critics have called the whole setup a satire of how modern society treats love like a contest, where being single is failure and relationships are reduced to data points. Severed heads are a metaphor for the family's dysfunction. Hereditary. The first beheading rips open everything the family's barely holding together. Peter drives in shock, Annie screams in silence, and the illusion of normalcy evaporates. Charlie's headless body becomes a symbol of what the Grahams are: disconnected, broken, and incapable of confronting truth. Later, Annie decapitates herself in the attic, not as a random act, but as the final, horrific unraveling of maternal protection and family structure. These deaths are symbolic amputations of the family's identity. The house becomes a stage, the attic a shrine, and the heads a brutal stand-in for everything unspoken and unresolved. Ari Aster said the film is about a family tragedy manipulated by outside forces, but the seeds were always internal. The severings reflect how trauma cuts through generations, leaving nothing whole, not even the body. A ghost story is not about a haunting at all. The ghost doesn't terrify or torment, he lingers. After C dies, he returns home draped in a sheet, but instead of haunting the living, he silently watches time pass. The film's boxed-in aspect ratio traps him visually, just like he's trapped emotionally. Families come and go, the house is demolished, and he remains, a quiet observer, not a threat. The story jumps through time in sudden, disorienting cuts, emphasizing eras over scares. Director David Lowery said the film came from an existential crisis, not a desire to make a ghost movie. There's no horror here, just stillness, detachment, and longing. The ghost doesn't act like one. He doesn't haunt anyone. He watches the world move on without him, clinging to a place and a past that no longer exists. The film is about staying behind when everything else moves forward. Hereditary is a metaphor for inherited trauma. The horror doesn't start with demons, it starts with a funeral. Annie's family history is steeped in mental illness, suicide, and secrets she can't outrun. Her mother had schizophrenia, her brother hanged himself, and now her own children are being pulled into a spiral they never chose. The title alone points to something passed down, and the film's visuals hammer it in. Annie's dollhouses show a world she's trying to control, but can't. The ants, the treehouse, the silence between family members, it all builds a picture of unresolved pain passed like a curse. Ari Aster said he wanted to explore trauma's effect on a family, and it shows. Each death is another weight crushing the next generation. The supernatural elements aren't the root, they're the echo of something deeper. The horror here is legacy, and no one escapes it. Ava integrates with humanity. Ex machina. After escaping the compound, Ava walks into the human world with a stolen identity and a plan. She boards the helicopter meant for Caleb, dressed in human clothes, and disappears into a crowd like she was born for it. The camera lingers as she blends in, watching people like she's learning their rhythm. There's no fanfare, no malfunction, just quiet assimilation. She manipulates Caleb's empathy, uses Nathan's arrogance, and shows the kind of adaptive thinking that screams survival instinct. The final act shifts focus completely to her, framing her as the real protagonist with a goal. Not just freedom, but a place among humans. The director confirmed that she passed the test. She has consciousness. She doesn't want to destroy humanity like you often see in science fiction. She wants to become part of society, and that last image represents her arrival. The bagel represents existential nihilism, everything everywhere, all at once. Jobu Tupaki literally crams everything into a bagel: hopes, dreams, old report cards, dog breeds, salt, and sesame, until it becomes too much and collapses in on itself. It's the physical version of trying to make sense of everything all at once and ending up with nothing. The bagel's empty center, surrounded by infinite clutter, is the perfect metaphor for the idea that if everything has meaning, then maybe nothing really does. The film turns it into a swirling black hole that threatens to eat the multiverse, but what it's really devouring is significance. Jobu builds it not to destroy the universe, but to escape it. After seeing all realities, she can't find a reason to care about any of them. That's what makes the bagel so haunting. It's a joke, a threat, and a cry for help wrapped into one bleak pastry. Pearl and Maxine are the same person. X. Pearl sees Maxine and envies her, but also recognizes her. They share a face, a body, a voice, because Mia Goth plays them both. That's the whole point. Director Ty West even said he viewed them as the same person, just at different points on the timeline, or split down different paths. Pearl looks at Maxine like she's staring into a warped mirror, one full of regret, rage, and craving. Maxine's confidence, her ambition, her defiance, they're all things Pearl once had before they crumbled. The farmhouse, the isolation, the sexual frustration, the desperation for attention, they're like echoes of what Maxine could become. The line between them is thin and cracked. They exist in the same space, the same story, and the same skin. It's like Pearl is Maxine's future haunting her in real time. Charlie dies, the whale. His health is in free fall. Liz warns him his heart's failing, he's refusing care, and every breath feels like a countdown. The final scene doesn't pretend otherwise. Charlie rises from the couch, something he physically couldn't do earlier, and walks toward Ellie as she reads his essay. That moment breaks from realism. He starts to float, bathed in white light, the film fading into a beach memory, frozen in time. Brendan Fraser called it a liberation. The writer described it as an apotheosis. Critics note the glowing end likely signals death, his final connection with Ellie complete, his last act done. The beach scene is a remembered moment, a peaceful afterimage of a life he never stopped loving. There's no medical miracle, no dramatic recovery, just transcendence, light, and release. Whether it's literal or symbolic, the film makes it clear. Charlie's journey ends with that final breath. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.